Welcome back. So far, we have looked at perspectives in a fairly general sense. Today, let's look at how our perspectives and our prioritized values impacts what we filter and what we retain. Let's start with first why we filter. Communication involves combining multiple ideas into a related thought. If we look at a typical sentence of subject, verb, object, such as I like chocolate, then what we're really doing is we're combining the concept of I or me with chocolate and the relationship being liking it. I could complicate it and add adjectives and adverbs. So I could say, for example, I really like dark chocolate. And that just adds to the list of things that we're talking about. So imagine, for example, I walk into the room and I say to you and everybody else in the room, a quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. What would you say? What would be your reply? Think about it. Would you respond to the fox? Maybe you might point out that brown foxes are really a breed of fox called the cross fox, and that they're really not brown but more reddish brown. Or maybe you might point out that foxes won't jump over dogs, whether the dogs are lazy or not. Maybe you want to talk about dogs, or the fact that you've never seen a lazy dog before. Whatever you choose, of course, is going to be based on what you consider most important out of that list of things that were brought up. For example, you might want to say, well, I learned that sentence by it being the quick brown fox. To which I might reply with, well, that's the most popular way of saying it nowadays. But back in 1885 in the Boston Journal, where it was first typed or first printed, they used the word a. Maybe instead of you making that observation, you just jump straight to maybe your experience in typing class, because that's where you first learned the sentence. Whatever you do and whatever you picked, odds are other people picked something else to talk about. We each choose something different, partly because we prioritize different things in our heads differently than others. And it's the more prioritized item that tends to get the response. If you are outraged by something or impressed by something more than the rest of the items on the list that are involved in the sentence or the topic, that is what you're going to respond to. Well, we can turn this around and, to a certain degree, control the conversation. No matter what the person says, and no matter where you think they want the conversation to go, your reply impacts where the conversation is going to go in the future, because you can choose which piece of the conversation you're going to respond to. And that dictates where they're going to go, because your sentence is in essence the same as the first sentence. It is the opportunity to respond to a collection of thoughts and ideas. That's how conversations work, but that's also how we can take advantage of how the conversation process works to try to move people into talking about what we want them to talk about. If I were to walk in and say, the day is really sunny, and you want to talk about how you got an A on a test, you could say something to the effect of, sunny days makes you happy. And there's lots of things that make you happy. For example, getting an A on a test. See how that works? And people respond to that without realizing that you've completely changed the conversation. Unfortunately, we also make the assumption that everything that's left behind, all those other topics like the color of the fox, the laziness of the dog, what the dog's breed is, all of that gets assumed to be acceptable material and truthful and not wrong because you didn't object to it. And as a result, it must be true. That's how people think. Think about that.